Yo.
We're back.
Not back, but back, Not Texas back, but we're back. We're back in the saddle.
We've showed up.
Yo, how's everybody doing? Sorry I was away last week. World Series was honestly just
the champs.
More important. The champs are home though. Everything's great in my household right now and in my life. So,
there we go.
We're here.
It's true. The sun shines a little brighter in Houston today. I'm sure, Alabama's the same way. A lot of success, a lot of brightly shown days. But in Houston, we are shining pretty good.
Yeah, no,
not this weekend.
No? How's the radio been over there? I don't know. Are you a big radio guy? Are you a talk radio guy or no?
Yeah. I mean, I worked in it for a while. I don't keep up with it. I don't keep up with the local stuff as much now. I just kind of listen more national. But I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, it's what you would expect, right? One loss and it's just like
it's the end of the world.
This place on fire, right? And I know you guys saw something I tweeted too, but I to me, and I've said it kind of all year, this team just feels a little different. They just hadn't been in sync, but I just feel like at this point, 2 losses. It's obviously not the end of the world. 2 1-score losses, last second, 2-point conversion.
Not trailing it in any game.
Right. On the road, both tough atmospheres. Like, I get all that. But, you look at I just feels like Alabama's come back to the pack. It doesn't feel like they're not still a really good team. I just think, for a while you had kind of Alabama, and then maybe 1 or 2 teams were within a touchdown or 10 points of them, and then it's a huge drop off. Now it feels, obviously, we know we're kind of where they stand now, but it always kind of felt like 4, 5, 6 teams were kind of right there with them, and any given day they can get knocked off, and we've seen that. So I don't think next year they're going to lose 4 or 5 games, but it feels like it's inevitable. The end at some point, right? You're going to see the end at some point. I feel like I can maybe feel like for the first time we're truly on that down slope. I hadn't felt that yet necessarily, but and maybe it's an overreaction. I hope it is, but it feels like we're kind of on that down slope now. I don't know when the end still might be 8 years away, 10 years away, who knows? But it might only be 1 championship in 8 years, right? Where Saban is accustomed to winning 1 every 2 or 3 years.
The question is is it the trend line is down, or like you said, some other people rising to the top. Georgia's really bringing it to the top. Is it, is it something where all these games were close? You're still going to have quality talent. Clemson's almost a good example of having that eliteness and then losing it in a few spots. Looking from the outside in, I'd expect Bama's still going to have the elite players all over the field and be contending for championships year in and year out, for the next foreseeable future. Yeah,
the recruiting classes are still top. I mean, the class we're putting together right now is number 1, I think, and it's I just picked up the top dual threat quarterback in the country. It's so the things are still there, but just something feels off, and maybe all it takes is cleaning house in terms of coaches and changing up the assistants. I mean, that's what it was 8 years ago when Lane Kiffin came in and they kind of revamped everything. So maybe it's that, but just seems like, and I don't know, maybe it's an NIL thing where more teams can get big players. Maybe it's the transfer portal has changed things because any team can have an off season where they pick up a bunch of guys or fill a couple key spots and they're ready to roll. I don't know. And again, I don't know what the playoff means too when it expands. Does that help Alabama? Probably, right? Because they're going to be in more often than not. Right now, you can keep them out of it and they can't get in. But if you had a 16-team playoff right now, Bama's still sitting pretty and nobody's going to want to play them. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But this is the first time I've truly felt like, okay, starting to maybe watch the end of this thing.
What's crazy is I 100% understand. It's crazy because at the beginning of the year, we were talking about the outlook of the season. And a lot of y'all, a lot of people were like, it's a top heavy race. It's Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, everybody else. Honestly, I think we are really getting, we're getting that open field that I honestly thought we were going to get. It's wide open right now besides Georgia, in my opinion, as who's the second best team in the country, So I think we got a lot of football left, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're really this could go down as one of the better college football, seasons when we get down to the end of it.
It could. And look, I'll add a couple of stats that the Bears thrown out some great stats. Chris Felica from Game Day, right? He's kind of all over this game, but the two stats that they kind of back up kind of how I was feeling. But this Saturday be the first time in 165 games since the start of the 2011 season where Alabama is not playing the regular season game with a chance to win a national championship. So like for 11 straight years, every regular season game, Alabama's still been in the mix for a national championship. So that's pretty ridiculous. That's the case. So, and it's only twice have they actually been on the field without a chance to win, and those were bowl games in 13 and 19. So it's like, it doesn't happen a lot. Like, this is not a position that Alabama fans are familiar with. Now, my time goes back to well before Nick Saban, so I'm very familiar with not being in the national championship race as an Alabama fan. So I still appreciate everything, but I'm just trying to be realistic about kind of maybe what's ahead.
Yeah, well, I think part of that plays into it too is like Clemson Alabama fatigue, like is from a general like feel, like and just seeing other teams that are up there. And I don't know. I think that's just kind of shook up perception of what this year can be too.
Yeah.
It was like Saturday night. I was watching the game, whatever game I was watching, and they had the how they do like the Aflac trivia question, and they were talking about who's the only team that was ranked number 1 at the beginning of the college football playoff rankings to not make the playoffs. And I was like, oh shit, it's Mississippi State, and it was like such an. The hell was that,
man?
Somebody don't want you to
man.
My hand was up here. Like I know. Okay, never mind. We got somebody behind the scenes messing with some stuff. But anyways, no, it just really goes to show you that Bama, Clemson, those teams have just, if you're ranked number 1 in the college football playoff at the beginning of the college football playoff, you make the playoffs. So, it's just another one of those wild stats. That was weird. I'm not touching anything. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know what just happened. So we're going to slide on out and move on. I didn't know that had music. That was great. What's not great? All that red.
Just picking up one game a week. It's just not going to get it done.
I'm trying to let y'all catch up.
Inching our way back. Inching our way.
Yo, can we talk about how just last week I was so sold on Tennessee going into Georgia and handling business, and Tennessee got it just really goes to show you Georgia, everybody else right now. So
yeah, I mean they smoked them.
I think from this list, a couple quick thoughts. The Liberty game, that was one where rarely does it end up like as easy as you think it is. Like we all thought that was just an easy pick, and like they were up the entire way and won. Like that rarely works out. And then Texas, great win by Texas to go in there. And after we were in Discord all morning, I ended up taking Texas, betting on Texas because I forgot who was our so bet guy this week. He was his favorite pick, and like had another buddy that loved Texas. I ended up just going betting Texas, so it worked out for me there. But they look pretty good finally. They kind of taking care of business.
I mean, yeah, it's just the second half. I don't know what's going on in the second half, but it's like we just decide to stop scoring points, and the defense just starts giving up points. So it's very interesting. I didn't watch 5 seconds of Wake NC State, so not honestly sure what happened there.
Fortunately, that one wasn't ever really close. It was pretty much a wire-to-wire finish on that one.
Yeah,
by Spen's Wolfpack.
You're still rolling with them till the bitter end. They're they're turning it up. I'd like to think that I gave Clemson the kiss of death this weekend, and I really hope Casey's in here right now. He hasn't said anything yet, so I'm hoping that he's watching from a distance. But man, that was an absolutely pathetic performance by Clemson. I mean,
absolutely.
It helps to score.
Yeah, man. Well, it's like Notre Dame. Cerveza has struggled, certainly to start the year and scoring, getting out of the gate and having multiple turnovers, having Clemson just really shoot themselves in the foot, having a blocked punt immediately to get them on the board. They're taken out from the beginning, and you could tell they're deliberating between Cade and DJ and didn't know what route to go. And that just, once you're down a few scores, it was like, once it was like 14, I was like, I don't think Clemson can score 14 tonight. It just kind of fell over.
Notre Dame's defense has really been coming around.
Notre Dame is, three big ACC wins this year with Clemson, North Carolina, Syracuse. I mean, they've kind of handed it to the ACC.
Well, wasn't that last week we saw that it was like they're like 28-0 against the ACC in the regular season?
Yeah.
Their last 5 years or whatever it is. Man, it's like it's pouring salt in the wound because they still refuse to join the ACC officially. So
yeah.
They're not the same team we were talking about earlier this season. And it gets a little more interesting. I'll bring it up a little later, but it gets a little interesting how they end the season.
Where you at, Casey, hiding like the Vols fans. So let me ask this right quick. I mean, Hooker had a game. He didn't have a great game at all. That's not what I'm saying. But does that showing kind of push him out of the driver's seat for the Heisman?
Yeah, it feels absolutely wide open. I mean, that hurts. Just like C.J. Stroud, had 70 yards passing at Northwestern, a terrible team. They're Ohio State fans up and down will tell you that it was in the middle of a hurricane that they were playing. But I mean, he looked terrible. I don't know if anyone watched that game. You really had no reason to, but I actually watched most of that game. They looked pretty inept in that one. And so, who is the Heisman favorite now?
I think it's Stroud barely. I think it's barely Stroud. Like when I
Stroud's
say barely,
plus 140, Hooker's plus 300.
Yeah,
and then it gets long from there. I mean, who's been the most consistent player? Because it just seems like nobody's been doing it every week. Multiple 100 yards rushing, or 5, 6, 7 touchdowns every single week passing, doing Vince Young, Cam Newton type things. So this doesn't seem like there's a player that is head and shoulders better than everybody else in the country.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I still think, I don't think Drake May will win it, but I think Drake May, if he runs the table and they win the ACC, I think he has as good an argument as anybody. And I understand that, that he hasn't played a ton of competition, maybe necessarily when you look at defenses, but he's single-handedly the reason why they only have one loss. I think even with Sam Howell, they probably have a couple of losses this year, maybe 3 losses. And I think he's single-handedly put that team on his back as a freshman and has been electric. And he's actually I think he's in the mix now odds-wise. So it's not a long shot. But if he beats Clemson, got to get by Wake Forest this week. It's going to be a tough game. But if he wins that game and then gets by Clemson somehow, then I think he's got as good a shot as anybody to win it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think this is one of those years, like you're saying, where it's so wide open. I think, you're talking about Drake May. Could he sneak in and be the 4th person that gets invited to, Ninwa's seat? Because, I think it's, I think it's the 3 quarterbacks that we've talked about all year. And then, if Drake May keeps playing the way he's playing, why not add him to the mix? So
31 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So
that's crazy.
Pretty incredible.
Stat. I'll tell you what, 70,
and he's top 5 in completion percentage too. So he's, just every stat he's near the top or at the top.
Yeah, and he's elevated Downs, and Downs would be like a 1st-round pick. He's obviously talented in his own right, but that's a crazy connection.
Because you look at Hooker, he's 21-2. So why he's not getting as much respect kind of blows my mind.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what,
he was getting all the respect.
Oh yeah, no,
he
was getting all the flowers, But it's just, man, that was a gut-wrenching game for me because I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, Tennessee, they've got this, they can do this, and then literally, it was just they weren't ready. They weren't ready for Georgia. And I saw they leaked Stetson Bennett's phone number. So the celebration after the first touchdown.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was perfect.
I am planning on going as Stetson Bennett for Halloween next year. Everybody can join me. I know the best, costume is Santa, but I'm going to go as Stetson, and I'm just going to be having a good time.
There we go. The mailman.
The mailman. So, look, I didn't watch the entire Bama LSU game because, of course, the World Series was on. But I caught, the last, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 minutes. I had it split screen. That was one hell of an ending. That was one hell of a
great game.
And I wish my guy Casey was in here because they registered 2 earthquakes in Baton Rouge this weekend. Not 1, but 2. And it was like an earthquake here where I live because I'm outside smoking. And all of a sudden I just hear, whoa, as I'm looking, I can see the touchdown being scored. And I'm like, yeah, these people they can't get enough of LSU. And, somebody brought up Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly couldn't do this with the talent at Notre Dame. But he comes to LSU, and in his first season, he beats Bama. Is Brian Kelly – has it been the talent around Brian Kelly? I don't know. It's one of those interesting questions. Does Brian Kelly not get the respect he deserves? And now if he continues to win, will he, finally get those flowers that he didn't at Notre Dame?
I mean, they had a ton of success in Notre Dame. And clearly the talent was lacking at some point. Every time they get on the field, They get run out by, Bama or Ohio State or whoever it was. So, I mean, certainly you'd expect he's got equal or better talent right now. He's going to be in, I hate to say more high-profile games because every Notre Dame game is high-profile. But we'll see. I think he's also going to have a lot of up and downs. I mean, Bama's a little down. LSU's definitely outkicked their coverage right now on how well they've played all season long. And he's going to go through ups and downs. I mean, now he's in the big boy league, and you got to bring it every single week. So I think he'll have as many successful runs at it as times there's 3 or 4 losses, and everybody wants to fire him.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's true. Football. He definitely has a time clock on him. I don't know when it's going to go off. It could go off after he wins several titles. It could go off the end of this year. Brian Kelly's just a finite amount of time he's going to be able to make it in Baton Rouge. But I think he's going to win a national championship in that time. I mean, he's a phenomenal coach. I don't think that's ever been a question. But this is obviously the best team or best talent that he's ever been able to have together.
That hurt. God bless. Winning a national championship. Look, I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Spend?
I mean, he's a good coach. There's no question. I'm not ready to sit here and act like he's the second best coach in the SEC right now. I think he's had a couple nice wins. He's closed the gap well this year, but he's still going to finish this year with 3 losses, maybe 4 losses, and he's in the mix right now. But I don't think he will be. Look, they still got to get by Arkansas. I got 2 road games to finish the year, 2 winnable road games, obviously, but get through those, get to the SEC championship, then we can maybe start having a conversation of, okay, is he can actually be somebody that can establish himself here? But I'm with Nelly that I can't get over some of the off the field corny stuff that he does.
Oh God,
that stuff's going to catch up to you. I mean, it is faking a Cajun accent.
5 minutes when you've been there.
Yeah. Dancing around dudes. Yeah. We'll see. He's a good coach, but yeah, I don't think he's dynamic enough to really be there year in year out. I think I think he could definitely be in a spot where every 3 or 4 years he knocks off somebody and he makes it to the SEC championship game, and then how everything else falls from there with the new playoff and everything. Who knows? But I mean, good win, but I'm not ready to crown him yet.
And certainly shouldn't. But the accent, come on, guys. I was in London for 4 days. I'm coming back talking with the accent. I mean, it happens. You get the juices flowing.
Yo, we're just not even going to talk about my lock. Like I said,
we already talked about it.
Yeah, we've already talked about it, and it still hurts. I'm still down.
Man, we had not the best weather conditions. I don't know what happened. Hand up, that one. Guy had said that one was never close. That one was blown up at the halftime. Illinois let me down.
Wait, I thought you covered that. Did you not cover that?
Then I hit. Oh no, you're right. That was 23-16. That one covered.
Yeah. Oh
yeah, we got it.
I was gonna say.
Wait, I was like, huh?
I definitely didn't cover. Try and do one nice thing. You try and say, "Oh, I'm not a homer. Like I'll go find the right play."
Yeah.
Cam Rising was back, but 4 turnovers for U of A. I mean, they're certainly in striking distance to have some sort of cover. 4 turnovers ain't going to do it. And it's, as soon as I say this team is done and give up on the talent they do have, they're going to go beat somebody here in the next 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. I love my pick. I told you I liked it a lot. The under was the other side of it that I loved. I told you both sides of that. It was 12-0. So it worked out pretty well. Old Dominion's quarterback was just pretty awful. Marshall did worry me because they had 9 points and 300 yards at one point. I was like, this is one of those games. You get 9 points out of 300 yards and you're going to find a way to lose it. So I was worried for a little bit, but Old Dominion was so bad. So that was a nice one. I usually hate betting Marshall because they're so all over the place, but that one paid off. So love it. 7-3. I feel pretty good about that.
Hey, you're tearing it up.
I mean, that's a team that beat Notre Dame, who beat Clemson.
Yeah.
Marshall should be number 6 in the country.
No, you're not wrong there. Marshall's had a very interesting season. It's been fun to just kind of watch in the background. So I don't know. Yeah, you're killing it.
All right, another week. Some more sadness. Nelly, I think you've got a couple things to share with the folks out there.
Yeah, I got 2 items. One's a double sad. So the first sad is for Alabama fans, like our good friend Spend here. It's just a sad weekend, sad loss, brutal. You lose both games as time expires. I mean, that couldn't be sadder. And I saw some stat. This is the first time that they've had 2 losses, prior to the Auburn game since early 2000s. It was 2005 or something. It was before Saban was there. It's just crazy. It was a good stretch there. And the second half of that is I'm sad for all of America because Bama's going to go crazy next year. That just kind of feels like, I know Spence doom and gloom, says his team's falling apart here. I don't foresee that. I think they're going to keep cruising. I think this is an aberration. Past history shows they'll keep cruising. I think the rest of us will be sad because they're going to bounce back. The other one I'm sad for.
The first double sad. All right.
and the other one I'm sad for is the Atlantic Coast Conference. Man, talk about a weekend of shooting yourself in the foot. The teams that are holding up the banner carrier for your conference to get Clemson into the playoff, multiple losses in ugly games, really. And then you look at Clemson going on the road, gets annihilated at Notre Dame. Just the ACC is a sad place with how it felt they were guaranteed to get Clemson in. So for that, I'm sad.
I'll just go ahead and I'll jump on that because that was something else I was thinking about too. It's been a bad year for the ACC. I mean, there's no way to look at it unless North Carolina goes on an incredible run, which I still think they'll lose another game or 2. There's no way to say this season's been a success. I mean, even you go back to the quarterbacks we were talking about preseason that were this could be one of the better quarterback leagues in the country, and those guys have just kind of fallen off. Now Drake May's risen up, right? And you've had some bright spots, but the guys we were waiting for have just not been there. And look, we got grief from the ACC chat, right? I mean, us propping up LSU and talking down Wake Forest and Clemson. I mean, look, they are who we thought they were. I mean, there was a reason we were talking like that. And look, no offense, I think Clemson's still a good team. I think Wake's got some good pieces, but they weren't top 10 teams. Clemson maybe still is, but that's why none of us thought they were in the mix. But this was just overall a bad weekend for them. NC State continues to kind of hold on, but they're probably the most overlooked top 20 team in the country. They just they just kind of won games ugly, and they're still there, but they're not going to compete for anything big. But yeah, I'll parlay on that ACC sad stuff, and I'll add one more. I don't know if y'all saw the video of the LSU fan on the field, threatening or going in the face of one of the Alabama assistant coaches. on the field rush, like a drunk, like 50-year-old man, right? Like just a very stereotypical LSU fan, like the Columbia, like light, like shirt, right?
Hey, but hold on, time out. I'm not gonna let you clown on Columbias because I wear those daily.
Yeah.
Okay,
no, that's fine. But he was a guy that you could tell eats a little bit of gumbo, drinks a lot of whiskey, and
gets well.
And look, this it's fun to watch people storm the field, but this is part of the problem with it, right? If you have fans, that, especially old men, right? And I'm an old man, so I can say that you can't. I mean, like that's embarrassing, right? And the crazy part was the guy that he was kind of talking to and getting after was a guy that has a Purple Heart and as a well decorated military guy that probably could have made it look bad had he gone after him. So it could have turned out much worse. But just this an embarrassment all around when that kind of stuff happens. But I mean, I'm not surprised that would happen at LSU. But like even going back to the Alabama game, right, with Burton, like there's a reason why you don't want these fans on the field, right? Like, it's a great atmosphere. It's really cool, but there's always something that's could go wrong, and really wrong. And it almost did this past weekend, but that's the sad.
You can go back to Texas Tech, Texas earlier this year when the Texas Tech fan pushed the Texas player,
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing this week after week almost now. And it's like, when is enough going to be enough? Like something bad is going to happen and it's just going to be a gigantic shit show. So, that's
like at least let the field clear. Like if you're going to do it, like let the field clear, give it 10 minutes and then let everybody out there. Right. Like, but
yeah. And that's like the fun is like jumping on as it expires. But of course, and that brings out the other issues now. And really quickly before we get to the cat trio, I mean, we're talking about the ACC. Is Miami the most disappointing team?
Oh man, you just took where I was going.
Well, hold on. Let's stay in the ACC and let's DeCatro, you had some stuff for us.
Yo, look. Yeah, we're staying in the ACC. All right. 45-3, Miami getting absolutely destroyed. Fans leaving at halftime. What has happened to the University of Miami? I said the University of Miami was going to win the division and was going to be playing for the ACC championship, and they look atrocious. It's abysmal down there. Man, that shit is sad. But that wasn't the ACC team I was planning to talk about until I really thought about it. Clemson. I wish Casey was here right now. I do. I miss Casey. I'm going to have to reach out to him and give him some shit on Twitter or something. I don't know. But Clemson, I hitched my bag at one point to DJ Ukulele, as a Heisman guy. I mean, what the hell has happened there? Like, I don't understand. You mix that with Clemson's defense. I mean, Notre Dame's quarterback passed for 85 yards. They threw the ball 17 times this weekend. Just an overall sad performance from Clemson. Sad Miami. Just, we're out on the ACC, guys. Just put in a box and ship it out.
Let me quickly add before you go, Cerveza. That was the one bet last week that I was like, the Florida State. And the reason why I stayed away is it just felt like too obvious. It just felt way too obvious. But then as soon as that game got underway, I was like, why over? Sometimes you just can't overthink those things. Like there was just no way that game was going to be close with the way that both those two teams were playing. So big miss.
10 straight quarters, no touchdowns for the Miami Hurricanes. Josh Gaddis, last year's Broyle winner for best offense coordinator in the country.
Does that include overtimes too, or is that just quarters?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they got they've gotten a lot of field goals lately. Well, not a lot. I guess one last week. But,
I mean, just to stay on topic. I mean, we can start this sad with me. Sad. I think at some point, or like when Miami was going to play A&M on this show, I think I said something like they're going to roll A&M. A&M just lost App State. They're going to roll A&M. They don't play anybody. They're going to like cakewalk through their schedule, and they're going to be in the ACC championship. So for being short-sighted, Cerveza, sad. And I got a small Clemson one I could pile on, which I won't. And I'll just say it's sad because they were this close. I mean, we didn't think it was going to hit at Notre Dame. Then they had a couple easy ones, and then somebody they should have been able to beat in the ACC conference championship. But for Clemson, it's sad. Now, the next thing I want to discuss, we call it the U of H defense, and a sad day for defense all around. In Dallas, we had a 77-63 SMU victory. At half, I'm at the Astros game, and I'm trying to get on my phone to check the score, and it's 56-35 at halftime. And I was having glitches with my phone, and I just thought, like, there's no way. That's at least halfway through the third quarter, maybe into the fourth quarter. I mean, just crazy. U of H giving up 10 touchdowns to Tanner Mordecai. SMU, you're not, out of this. Like Clayton Tune, 500-something yards, 7 touchdown passes. Each quarterback had a touchdown, and the difference in the game, I guess, was defense, where Tune threw 3 interceptions. Cougars didn't punt. SMU only punted once. And, 20 years down the road, once the game's changed and we're really just playing 7-on-7, this is what the game – like we saw a glimpse of the future. This is what the game's looking like. So for the future that we hope never comes, and for defense, we will say sad. Now, the next people that are going to get smashed up and being sad, we've actually hit them. The same group of people for the same thing, and it's Tennessee, and we're going back to the goalpost. All right, Kansas, good friend of Sir Veza, good friend of KODU. They won their 6th game. They're bowl eligible. Everybody rushes the field. I don't know if anybody pushed any players, but they rush on the field. They snatch the goalpost. They drop it in Potter Lake. By the end of the weekend, Kansas had a picture on Twitter of the new goalpost sitting up all nice and pretty. Talking about how they paid for it. They covered all the costs. They don't have any SEC money. Tennessee, you cheap, and it's sad. It's real sad. And then, I'm going to pick on a couple guys from the show. Spin, you had the Air Force Army over, right? Last week?
It wasn't an official show play, but I was on.
No. Well, we talked about it, right? And listen, you're not alone. I was on the Air Force points over. I was on Air Force to cover, and I was with you. I thought there'd be some points, and then at one point, with a couple minutes left in the game, they're showing the last 5 games, and all the scores were like the tiniest scores you've ever seen. Nobody scored more than 20, and if they did, the other team didn't score at all. So just for bucking history, that's sad. And I take some, I was there too. I did some of it as well. And then let's hit on me. Last week, I loved OU at Baylor over, and I didn't bet it. I wake up Saturday morning. I'm like, I'm going to bet the game. It had moved like 3 or 4 points to about 62. So I didn't bet it because I didn't want to take the bad number. They score 70-something points. They blow through the number. I gave a great bet, the best bet of the year, the easiest bet of the year. I didn't even bet it myself. For that, I get just a big sad. And yeah, we'll do this again next weekend because I'm sure somebody else might lose, and it will have been a good run, and that will have been sad. There we go.
Those Naval Academy or the Academy games, they're just those are auto unders. Just until something changes, don't overthink it. Again, another one of those. Don't overthink. Just play it. Just play it and be done with it. Nelly was right.
82% since 2005. They just go under.
Really?
80? They're in a rock fight.
Even if it's like 35 points, like it doesn't matter the number. Just play the under.
Wow.
And one thing that was crazy about that was, Air Force, they had an interception deep in their territory, maybe 2. There was some other sort of a turnover. Number 1, they should have covered. It was only, I think, 7. They should have covered. They didn't cover. They could have gotten to the over. They could have gotten to the team total over. Like, this was a game that probably should have gone over, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. So bad beat. I'll call it a bad beat.
All right. The poll.
Things are getting fun.
Cerveza, they've been listening to you, pal, these last couple weeks, I think, with your super serious, super sexy top 25. It kind of reflects you a little bit more now.
There we go.
It helps. And I've got my new ranking, and we can just get right into that. Tennessee, boom, you're gone. So Georgia obviously moves up to number 1. I still have Ohio State number 2, but I got TCU 3. I still got them 3. Just from who they played, really. Michigan really hasn't played anybody. I don't know that I would take TCU over Michigan in a game, but just the way that my rankings are so super sexy and super serious, I got TCU 3, Michigan 4, And then I think I agree on 5 through 8 there, Tennessee, Oregon, LSU, and USC. The Pac-12 is going to have a chance to really kind of move up there. But after that, I mean, Ole Miss still with one loss. They get a win this weekend. They could kind of jump up into striking distance. But once you get past that, it's going to be hard for any of these teams to jump in. But I think TCU still should be a little up there because this is probably their last weekend. So.
Yeah, probably. I think Oregon probably has to be pretty happy with the way that Georgia-Tennessee game went because, the score was a little bit more lopsided, but it didn't feel like Oregon or Tennessee was in any more control than Oregon was in that game at all, right? Like Tennessee was beat from the beginning. So you watch that and you say, okay, maybe it's just Georgia. So Oregon, your Oregon Ducks continue to fly high, Nelly. It's kind of remarkable. I'm a little surprised that Clemson dropped down to 10. I mean, I think that's probably about
where they
should have fallen to, but I think the committee was just kind of waiting for them to slip up. Like, okay, we know they're not very good, but they need to lose first, and we'll bump them down. I'm still curious what happens. I don't think LSU runs the table, but again, the same kind of discussion. If the winner comes out of the West, what does that look like for the committee? But I think where we are right now, I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe in a couple of weeks we can talk about that more.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's crazy when you look at it. Just even last week to this week, three top 6 teams lose. Of course, one was guaranteed to, but I mean, it's still a lot of shakeup. It'll be interesting to see the Pac-12 if whoever comes out on top, if they just flamethrower down the stretch, if they can get in. TCU obviously if they handle business, they should be in, but there's a few opportunities to slip up along the way. Tennessee has to feel fantastic about where they sit, though, in my opinion. Dropping only to 5. Now they don't really. South Carolina could be a marquee win-ish, I guess. South Carolina, at least, is a team with a winning record.
We're not talking about South Carolina. We're not doing it. We're not talking about South Carolina. I'm not. Nope.
So, but Tennessee's got to feel good because obviously there's, going to be some level, if not entirely, a de facto playoff game at the end of the season, Michigan and Ohio State. So, but, we look back last week, all the chaos, like Spen said, for all we know, next week, 3 more top of the 6 will lose.
There was a 32% chance last week of all 4 of the playoff teams being from the Big Ten and the SEC. And that number is still around there because there's still, I just, I love Texas, but I kind of hope TCU keeps winning, just because I want somebody different. They screwed up last year and, Oklahoma State fell from grace in the the championship game or whatever, but I'd like to see a Big 12 team get back in there. I'd hate to see them fed to Georgia, but I just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I tell you what my biggest takeaway from this entire poll is, and I mentioned it the other day. Notre Dame is somehow going to sneak themselves in to a New Year's Six bowl, aren't they?
They're going to, if they beat USC, I mean, committee's already shown them a lot of love with 3 losses up there all the way at 20.
Yeah, the 20, it's right there. And I was thinking about it. I was like, man, this is 100% the beginning of squeaking them in. Like, Tulane's probably going to get jumped by Notre Dame with some just dumb stuff if Tulane keeps winning. And it's like, I don't know, man. It pisses me off. Like, it's just one of those things where I just hate the Notre Dame can automatically get into the New Year's Six bowl, whatever. But that's another day for another story.
I think
I don't even want to think about that right now.
Knock them out.
I hope USC beats the absolute hell out of them. LSU at 7, man, back-to-back great weeks. Ole Miss, Alabama, that's crazy.
I mean, one of the hottest teams in the country.
And what's funny is I don't think that train runs off the tracks now, but we'll get to that a little bit.
What kind of I mean, I was thinking about it earlier where it's like, okay, Ohio State and Michigan play a classic. All right, let's give it to Nelly in this timeline. Michigan wins with a field goal, 28-27, time expires. TCU wins out, Georgia wins out. I mean, is it likely that there's 2 Big Ten teams in there? Or what? I mean, is there any chance?
I would think for 2 to be in, Michigan would have to beat Ohio State because Ohio State has the better non-conference resume since Notre Dame is now ranked. I think if we lose in that scenario, as things stand, I don't think Michigan would get in. But if there's more chaos at the top, then like if TCU has to lose for either of those two guys to get in.
Real quick, say TCU loses this week, which, hey, whatever.
They're underdogs.
Oregon and USC loses. Do we end up seeing a Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Tennessee, or Bama? Like, does it end up being that?
Bama's got would need a lot of help to get. LSU'd have to lose out twice. I don't see that happening. I mean, I think the more likely thing is we have 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten. I mean, to me, that's the way it kind of shakes out because TCU, they have to win out to get in because the Big 12 just continues to slide.
Right.
I mean, maybe Texas can climb, but if Texas Tech could very well be Kansas State this weekend, and then Kansas State could be out of the rankings altogether, and you only have just Texas left along with TCU, so they just don't have any room to move up as much. So I think like one loss and they're out. And then to your point, like Michigan and Ohio State, things would have to go crazy. Now we saw Northwestern hang, for a while. So anything can happen. Illinois, who knows? It's going to be a low scoring game. I know Nelly's probably already locked in the under for that Illinois Michigan game in a few weeks, but that could be a game. But to me, it comes down to Michigan, Ohio State, again undefeated, and you're really going to try to compare who has the better loss, and it's going to be a headache trying to watch like a lot of the shows, analyzing that Tennessee's loss to Georgia and say Michigan's lost to Ohio State just because they're both road games to make it kind of equal. It would just be a complete cluster. But that's why I think like you end up probably having those two in because Oregon I think still needs help with Tennessee only having one win. Maybe if the championship does truly weigh in that much, a Pac-12 championship, sure, maybe, but I still think like Tennessee's overall body of work will still be better minus a conference championship. And again, I'll stand by the fact that Pac-12 hasn't beaten anybody outside of their conference this year.
Fact. I mean, you can't look at putting Oregon in the playoffs with what Oregon did week 1. I'm sorry. You can't do it. Like if there's a 1-loss Tennessee team and a 1-loss Oregon team, I'd rather watch Tennessee go back in and play Georgia than watch Oregon play Georgia. That's just my personal.
I mean, Oregon's
opinion.
Just so much more improved. I mean, not saying I wouldn't take Tennessee over Oregon, but I don't think you can make the tiebreaker be what happened 3 months ago.
No, for sure.
And one thing that's interesting looking at it is like I think there's a decent chance a 2-loss team is in the playoff. We're not that far off. I mean, there's not a lot of wiggle room for that not to happen.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
Interesting.
I think the only way that could happen this year is if LSU wins out, or if chaos happens and Bama can win out. Because if they would have to win the conference. Like I think to be a 2-loss team to get in, you have to win the SEC.
I think it's either LSU or Bama.
Credit for.
Yeah. Do y'all think there's any way that North Carolina could make up that much ground the rest of the way? It's hard to imagine they could jump all those teams.
Well, I think the committee talked about evaluating defenses, and that's why they penalized TCU last week. If North Carolina defense, I think would have to play a lot better. 1, for them to do that, but 2, But I mean, it happened when Ohio State won it, right? They were like 16th early on, so I mean, I guess it's possible.
Yeah, it just depends, I guess, on. I think they would have to have a lot of help, but they would get a Wake team now that's kind of dropped off. A surging Georgia Tech team, should we call them that?
Yes, you have to. Yeah.
And then NC State. If they have to have NC State stay ranked to even have a chance. And then Clemson. So their only loss being Notre Dame. Granted, it was a lot of points given up, but still, like I think they need a lot of help. But to me, like they would have an argument too out of everybody. Maybe I think it would take a lot of work. I'm just curious y'all's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean it's compelling. If they do finish, 12-1.
Yeah,
you can't count them out. You got to look at it. That's interesting.
You can't at all.
Oh, yeah. I see that going on constantly.
Yeah, no, it's just like a dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. I got one for on the radar, and that is Texas A&M going to Auburn.
Oh,
Jimbo. I think both these teams should be without head coaches right now, to be honest with you. Both of them. Like, honestly, trout these two teams out there with an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator and just let them go blow for blow. Because at this point, it's like, what the hell is Jimbo Fisher doing? Like, it's still just – it's blowing my mind every week. The A&M messaging boards are literally foaming at the mouth to get Jimbo out of there. Like, it's the wildest shit. Like, every week there's an account that just posts like A&M message boards, and it's a Texas fan account, and it's just, man, it's unbelievable.
They should see if Tennessee's got any extra GoFundMe money. They're going to need it.
Oh, they're going to need a lot of money.
Man.
Well, I'll jump on the radar. First on the radar is Central Michigan with 17 straight to tie this thing up right now.
Wow.
Chippewa, fire up chips.
Yeah. So, okay, I've got like a 2-week it's like a two-parter. I got a two-part on our radar. And the first part is this week, and it's the amuse-bouche. It's the appetizer. It's the Pac-12, baby. All right, we got 4 teams, the 4 top, ranked teams in the Pac-12 and in the ranking. Oregon with 0 conference losses, USC, UCLA, Utah, they all have 1. So this week they got the cupcake-ish part of the schedule, all right? All the teams are at home. Oregon's got Washington. USC's got Colorado. They should breeze by that. UCLA's got Arizona. Utah's got Stanford. They should breeze by that. We got Oregon and Washington is a rivalry game. They do hate each other. I've been thinking Arizona's going to be plucky at some point. Is UCLA shaky enough to allow that to happen? But let's say they all win. They all beat the team they're favored by double digits for. The next week, we got Utah at Oregon. We got USC at UCLA. We got a semifinal to see who gets into the conference championship game. As we know, conference championship game, top 2 teams. There's no divisions anymore. So can they all stay in the race? Can they all take care of business? Can they make next week really exciting? I don't know what other games are going on next week, but we'll have a spotlight for the main course, the Pac-12. And then, Nelly, you said it earlier. I was teasing it earlier. USC, one more game. If they beat UCLA, that guarantees them into that Pac-12 championship, but they still got Notre Dame Thanksgiving weekend.
Man, the spotlight will be on the Conference of Champions out west. Show next weekend.
And not gymnastics.
That's 2 great
We're not
games.
Talking gymnastics. No.
That's 2 great games next week. Man, that's
Water
exciting.
polo.
All right, 2. Yeah, so couple on my radar here. One is this amazing scenario that is probably unrealistic from the ultimate conference championship game, but would be amazing, is LSU winning out. Like, I want to keep an eye on to see how they follow it up. I mean, obviously, huge win. Keeping it rolling there. Brian Kelly's first time ever beating Saban. How do you follow that up going on the road to Arkansas? Now, Arkansas is proven themselves to be an average team, probably that maybe is even giving them credit, calling them average. But huge letdown spot. But if they can win out, it would be just amazing seeing those committee guys shuffle into that room. They would just be wetting their pants. Like, it would just be the greatest thing ever. Is if LSU wins out, beats Georgia in that title game, what the hell happens? It would be amazing. And second one there is Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. What about them winning out? What if that happens? Then we'll get the good doctor's dream of them playing in the Fiesta Bowl for like the 18th time. Man, I tell you what, Notre Dame's playing some great football right now. They still have major limitations in all aspects of the game, but they're at least playing more like a team, and they've got a little bit of a role here. So be interested to see them do that, cause some chaos potentially if USC's going to be inching up on the top 5. So those are 2 things I'm keeping an eye on.
Maybe looks like they got 2 easy ones, and then USC, Navy, Boston College, and USC.
Kind of piggybacking off of that too. My whole kind of on the radar this week is just want to see how these teams that had big wins last week, and even the ones that slipped up, those big games, just want to see how they follow up. Want to see, Georgia on the road to Mississippi State, Tennessee at home against Missouri, the Notre Dame game. I mean, there's a couple of tough spots there. Obviously, TCU still going through their grinder of a schedule, but I just kind of want to see how these teams respond after those big wins, because November is where you slip up, right? And you cannot take the time to celebrate what happened last week. Much like LSU, you go on the road to Arkansas. Like, these are some tough spots this week. I'm curious if these teams can kind of keep it going, or do they slip up and kind of enjoy that previous win a little too long?
Yep.
It's game time.
Game time.
Ooh, game time. Oh, Doc,
you muted.
Hey, you know what? I suck.
Hey, there we go.
No, I've been over here munching on something. We're moving on. I'm munching on some Quest birthday cake cookie. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's why I was.
Happy birthday.
Hey.
How did our convictions do last week? I think I had like two or three of mine. I can't remember exactly, but
I was 3 and 2. I
think I was 1 and 2 on mine, or 2 and 2 maybe. So not as convicted. Lost my conviction.
There's a lot this week. I'll roll through a few that I got. Again, love hearing y'all's take on some of these as I go through here. But let me start off with I got a long list of things that I kind of like here. So SMU, South Florida, I kind of like the over 71.5. I mean, obviously fresh on our mind is that last week performance, but South Florida's offense has actually been kind of moving the ball a little bit and scoring some, and their defense continues to be garbage. I think SMU's team total is like 45, so it's like a little high to want to jump on the team total. Kind of need South Florida to help here a little bit, but I feel like 71.5 is not a bad number. I hate touching those 70s, but I don't think that one's awful. On the flip side of that, App State and Marshall, back to Marshall, under 47.5. Similar to last week, like just watching their quarterback for Marshall, not a good thrower. Good runner, got a little bit of moxie, not afraid to get out of the pocket and run the ball, which I liked last week. But they still have a really good defense, Marshall does, but they still don't convert very well with scoring opportunities, as evidenced last week with the 12 points, although they were going up and down the field. So I just think this, again, will be kind of a lower scoring game. Decent amount of running the ball too, but I just think both defenses, especially Marshall being pretty good and their offense just being so shaky still, that it's a good chance for them to still kind of roll under. Navy, I like Navy this week, 16.5. I think the one thing Navy's done well this year is stop the run. They've kind of been consistent there. And I think they can kind of come in and just slow this game a lot and make it very difficult for Notre Dame to move the football. You mentioned the limitations they have offensively still, and I think that will kind of play it out. And look, there's like a level of respect here, right, between programs. So there's not any intention to try to run it up. Now Notre Dame could come out and hit a couple of big plays early and kind of put this thing away. But I feel like this will be one of those ugly close games that, you finally like, oh, let me go actually find NBC today and actually go watch a quarter of football, because it's a 17-10 game in the fourth quarter with Notre Dame and Navy. So actually, let me go watch this broadcast for the first time in a month and a half. So I think the last time I watched it was when Marshall was up in the fourth quarter. So
that sounds right.
Probably going back to it once again this weekend. Michigan, Nebraska. Nelly, tell me. To me, this feels like an underplay. I know you're a Big Ten under guy, but I think Nebraska has very little chances of scoring much. Number one, I know it doesn't sound like Casey Thompson's going to play, which is a big part of that. And then with Michigan has coming up, to me, it's just like run. Let's just move the clock, get out of here. And Nebraska's defense isn't horrible. So like they're not just going to give up big play after big play. So if Michigan's conservative a little bit this week, it just feels like this, even if Michigan scores 40, I still feel like 49.5 could still be a decent underplay.
Yeah. Well, Michigan on the year is 2-6-1 to the under over, however you want to put it. They're the best covering the under team in the country. So far this year, they've really played under. The Rutgers game notwithstanding last week, where they covered the whole total of their own. But I completely agree with you. Casey Thompson being out, be a little banged up. I think we've proven to be sluggish in the first quarter of games. To the second quarter, third quarter, kind of snuff them out, and then it'll just kind of be an ugly, 31-7 final. So I'd like the underplay on that too.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I just feel like it's going to be. I think Michigan will get all the points. It's just the problem being like if Michigan decides they want to score 50, then that's that's where it could go wrong. Two other quick ones I want y'all's opinion on. So Liberty on the road at UConn. It's 14.5. I know UConn's been a great story, but they cannot throw the football. Like they can run the football okay, but Liberty's got a pretty good defense and can slow down the run. So I don't understand. Like to me, this should be like is Connecticut good enough to be in a tight game? And their home field advantage won't play into this at all up in Hartford, so it won't matter. To me, this just seems way too low. And I know like we're still thinking about Liberty upset win over Arkansas, but Liberty's like look at Liberty's done this year. They're a solid team. I know they've had some injuries they've been dealing with, but to me, this still seems like it's a lopsided game. And I still think Hugh Freeze, even with the contract extension, is still not afraid to run it up to try to maybe entice an Auburn or something to come looking at him. So I don't know. Do you guys, is there any hesitation there to why Liberty shouldn't just run UConn?
My hesitation is, this is at 14.5 points. So it kind of like looks like that 7.5 that we've been dealing with the last couple of weeks. And then the only hesitation is Liberty just came off BYU and Arkansas. And that's two big games. Are they fully focused? Are they fully fresh? They should cover this easy. But I mean, we all thought this last game was going to go over too and didn't get nearby. So that'd be my only hesitation is just, do we think stepping up in competition, are they fat and happy? Are they focused? What do you think? And then that'll send you on your answer to play or not.
Maybe 45 is the play, the under 45 potentially. You saying that, like, I just feel like it could be a lot of running and just, not exciting.
I just, UConn is they're a terrible team, man. Like, I know they're
better. They're a little bit better.
Their best wins against Boston College, right? Isn't that that's their marquee win against one of the worst ACC teams. I think that they can get to a bowl. I think they play a terrible team next week, or maybe they're a slight underdog them. But this was as an audible for me on mine for convictions. I like that play a lot. I just think that Liberty, their failed 2-point conversion away from being undefeated at Wake. So I think Liberty is a pretty good team.
I mean, UConn's won 4 out of 5, but they beat a Fresno State team that was without Jake Haener, FIU, which we know how bad FIU is, BC, and UMass. So, great that they're winning some games, but still, there's nothing there that makes me think they can hang with a pretty strong squad. And again, like UConn last week, 60 yards through the air. They haven't gone over 175 yards passing yet. So I guess it's a situation where, too, if Liberty can get up on top of them early, like this UConn team is not built to come back. So that was one. And then last thought is I'm just thinking back to UNC, Wake Forest. I feel like, and we're going to talk about this game more in our picks, but I feel like Wake is due a pretty good game offensively, a little cleaner game than they have been doing. They have a lot of turnovers. And we know UNC loves to get up points. This game was like 58-55 last year or something like that. The total 77. So it's probably not one you're going to get excited to pull the over to, but this thing could easily be, it won't be a SMU Houston halftime score. We could easily be looking at like 35-28 at halftime. It would not be totally out of the question.
Two thoughts on some of the earlier plays. SMU, that over 71.5. I mean, that they can get it by themselves now. So I like that for sure. And then I was looking at that Notre Dame Navy game because I was thinking Army. I was like, are they playing Army? And that's the line. In the last 3 games, when they played them the last 3 years, I think they're averaging winning by about 22, 27 points. So whether they're taking a step back offensively, whether it's just that big of a mismatch, or whether can they get 2 more defensive touchdowns. If they get 2 more defensive touchdowns, I don't think covering 16.5 is going to be a problem at all. If they got to earn it offensively, maybe it'll be a slower. But as far as when you said there's like a respect in the game and like an honor, and they might not try and pile it on, obviously new coach, but the last couple of years, just talent won out.
Yeah. What do y'all like?
So, well, hey, Yeah. Whoa. Hey. Oh. You go. So bring it to us.
All right. We're going to stay in my favorite place to be, the Big 12. We're going to go back to my favorite team to pick. That was Kansas. They're going to Lubbock. Y'all don't need to go to Lubbock. Kansas is doing it for you. They are getting 3.5 points. This is two teams kind of going in opposite directions right now. Kansas off a big blowout win to Oklahoma State. Obviously, Oklahoma State's just got everything going wrong right now. So I'm not necessarily pumping up Kansas too much. Just a big win. They scored points. They look good. Tech's been struggling. They got smoked by Baylor. TCU, eked them out by 10 or whatever it was this last weekend. And I liked what I saw from that Kansas rush game from the quarterback and from the running back. So I think this just could be a shootout. Does Tech have anything left in them? So I think the 3.5, just a pretty good number for Kansas. One thing or a couple things give me pause. Kansas, are they going to be too fat and happy off of getting the bowl? I don't really think so, because 3 weeks ago they were looking at, can we get to 10 wins, or 4 weeks ago they were thinking about that. And then Tech has 4 wins, so they're in a battle for bowling. They've got, 3 winnable games, including this one. I think the next 2 are more winnable, but will they still have the energy in them? I had Stanford at Utah down here. I'm going to kind of leave that off. I mean, it's something I am looking at. If Utah can score in the 40s, I don't see how Stanford plays with them, but the line's 24, so I'm not quite ready to pull it on that. I might be stealing your pick here, Nelly. If so, we can just go to to cash the ticket together. Miami, Georgia Tech under 44. I made some notes here. Miami cannot score. Georgia Tech is not good. Take the under. Do not watch this game. I just think, Georgia Tech can score, but that's usually when another team is scoring. I just expect an ugly game. I hope nobody has to watch this. And then lastly and a half, let's go UGA. Let's go Bulldogs. Let's go UGA, land 16.5 at Mississippi State. UGA has Tennessee Tech next weekend, so I think they can be fully focused on this week. And they've just been dominant. Mississippi State has been beaten fairly handily by the good teams they've played, Bama and LSU, and then Kentucky beat them by 10. But, I don't think Kentucky's, meant to beat anybody by 20, 30 points. Georgia 10-3 against the spread as a road favorite of 14 or more since 2019. And I just think they're going to put a whooping on them. Georgia plays a lot of under games, and they still score. They have one of the most points per game in the country. So just that mix, I think they're just going to play great defense. I think it's going to look a lot like that 30-6 Alabama Mississippi State game. And then I also had a note down here, Cal plus 14 at Oregon State. Cal's been playing people close. Oregon State doesn't, really aim to blow people out. That's not how they do it. And I will be honest, my alpha guy, he's got Oregon State minus 14. So I wouldn't want to not tell the people that. But Cal's been keeping it close. Kept it close with USC last weekend and with Washington a couple weekends ago. So that might be a number worth looking at.
Too soon. I think I saw a stat. Cal is really, really good against the spread on the road as an underdog of double digits. It's a very specific stat, but it was 15-2 they were. So kind of backing up your point. But I'm glad you pointed out Georgia, because I almost made Georgia my lock this week. I just feel I know they're coming back off a tough game, but Kirby's already saying he's got the Saban, that game doesn't matter. This game ahead of us. I know Will Rogers as a freshman came into Athens and had a pretty good year a couple years ago, threw the ball a lot as a 7-point game. But again, to your point, I just think it's going to be a lot like the Alabama game. I think Kirby can take a playbook, just follow Alabama's just game plan against Mississippi State. And I don't think they'll have any problem scoring, and State will. So to me, 16.5, maybe State can close in late and they're going to try to score till the very end.
That's the worry. Yeah.
But to me, I just feel like this game is one Georgia won't have that much trouble scoring, and can limit what Leach does. So I do love that one a lot too. I almost made him my lock. So
I need to know if Leach is going to have chairs on the sideline this weekend. Yeah, that's what I do need to know. So there's that.
I think he typically likes to always start the game with it. It's will they finish with it? Yes, I think they will start.
There we go.
Was that everybody?
Man, no? Hey, Cerveza, man. Hey, I like that pick. I love that pick, like the good Nick Corso would say. We talk about Miami, Virginia under 10 straight quarters. Miami not scored a touchdown. They are averaging 12 points per game against FBS competition. That is, Miami is just terrible. Miami, Georgia Tech, that one's not getting anywhere near the 40s. So love that pick. Fantastic.
Yes.
Spend right on that exact same wavelength with you. 76.5 is not an appetizing number to look at when you go over. But last year it was 113. Past 2 years, it's combined for 200 points between UNC and Wake. I mean, just it's a scoring bonanza. It's a fun play. Go ahead, throw a little money on there. Who doesn't love to watch a game that's going to be like 45-40? So, that's both the game that you can bet. And if you lose, if it's a good game, awesome. But really, you're just going to be cheering for points. What's better than that? So, it's 7-3 to the over the last 10 meetings between Wake and North Carolina as well. So, they like to play for points there. Other one, shout out my man Cerveza, Arizona State +9 at Wazoo. Really like this pick. So a couple fun, quirky items. They are tied for the exact same turnover margin on the year, both at 0. So it's kind of a back and play. That's just a fun fact, doesn't imply anything. But when you look at Wazoo, 6-3 against the spread so far this year, but in the last 2, they are 0-1-1. So they haven't been covering recently. When you look at running the ball, Wazoo cannot run the ball or chooses not to. They have a pretty solid quarterback, but they the 4th fewest rushing attempts in the country. Arizona State, while they haven't had a ton of winning formulas, when they can hold you under 200 yards, that's when they win. So I'm not ballsy enough to take them outright, but +9, like them forks up.
Works up, yeah.
The I guess two quick ones here because I kind of tied down there. Indiana, Ohio State over at 57.5. Ohio State is going to almost get to this number on their own. Weather's supposed to be clear, which if you follow any Ohio State fans, the number one thing that it's like the boogeyman, it's Baba Yaga, is if the weather is inclement. Like they just can't handle it. They've come out in front office administration in Columbus and said, if Ohio State is hosting a playoff game, we're playing it in Indianapolis because we don't want weather to be a consideration. So that's a real legitimate fact that was said. They're scared of the weather. Going to be beautiful weather this weekend. Indiana is terrible. They are reeling. They've given up 40, 3 out of the last 4 games. Ohio State is going to ring this one up. It's 57.5. Take the over. Stroud's going to try and earn his Heisman back. Take that play. Last one. This one's a hold your nose bet. And I had my notes, but I don't have them with me here. The Aggies and Auburn over. You want to talk about 2 teams that you don't love to watch offensively, but hey, they can both run the ball and they both are not recently been great defending against the run. So hold your nose bet, 48.5, take that over. Don't watch the game.
I'm so glad that's an SEC network game, so it won't be on ESPN, ESPN2, or ABC.
Not CBS 230?
No. No, it's the SEC network special. I don't know who that is on that one. So
I think it's Bama. Ole Miss, probably.
Yeah, it is.
I thought Jimbo would have them on CBS more.
I think that Auburn. I kind of like Texas A&M in that game. I think they got most of their guys coming back from the flu, and I think Auburn's been dealing with that too this week. Like they've had a number of guys that are out with the flu too. So kind of like Texas A&M. But to your point, both those teams have been giving up a lot of points and scoring some too. So I think that's one that I'd lean over as well there. I just want to add on to the UNC because you're like you said, Nelly, it's going to be a fun one. Like a couple fun props here. It's like to feel good about taking a 77.5. Like there's a couple props here. Any team to score 40 plus points, yes, is -323. So that tells you all you need to know about how they feel about that as well. And I even kind of like the time of the first score of the game over under 5 minutes. Under 5 minutes is -150. So it's not a ton of juice, but like I feel like that's going to be again something that could happen quick. And I also like North Carolina team total in the first quarter 7.5. And it's plus money to the over. I obviously like it because I think they'll score at least once. But if Wake continues to turn the ball over like they have, you could easily get good field position early on too. So getting a plus number for UNC to score over 7.5 is not an awful one in my mind too. But that game's going to be fun. It could be one you should just wait till it starts. Hopefully, like a slow start out of the gate, and then grab like a live number like low 70s or high 60s would be great. It's going to turn on at some point.
What was it? Oh, I wonder if there's a bet in there that's like 3 straight scores.
Yeah.
3 possessions in a row.
Three straight scores by either team is minus 435. Yes.
But Nelly, you were talking about, just kick back and enjoy the fireworks. It's like this is the complete opposite of whatever that Iowa under 37 they played, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the halftime first half total is 39. So just give you an idea.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the under in games, it's the working man bet. It's the grab your lunch pail, go to work. But hey, chicks dig the long ball. So that's what these overs are about betting. You get these in the 70s, just sit back and just have a great time. It's going to be get your popcorn ready.
I've got one more conviction for you boys.
There we go.
And this goes out to
good doctor.
This goes out to Spin tagging me in this the other day. My conviction is Spencer Rattler will not be the highest rated quarterback this week. Okay, I'm taking the Florida points. I don't care how many points it is. I want Florida to beat the absolute hell out of South Carolina for that. When you tagged me in that, man, I was just like, wow, like that's just disgusting.
Highest quarterback rating of the week last week. Got to give the man his props.
That was disgusting, dude. When you tagged me, I'm like, there's no way. Like this can't be real. So there's that. That's my last one. Moving on. We're starting this off in Fayetteville. I wish I didn't have to go to New Orleans this weekend because honestly, I think I'd make the drive to Fayetteville. LSU, 2.5-point favorites on the road. I don't see how this line's 2.5. I'm just going to be blunt. I don't. I mean, is it just because they're coming off a Liberty loss, and they think Arkansas is going to be more fired up? I don't see why this is only 2.5. I think LSU is clearly the better team in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly, it screams kind of trap game kind of situation because of that. I think the letdown spot is certainly a big play in this line here of coming off the huge emotional win. But at LSU just feels like they're putting it together and they're running. 2.5 feels like a small number to me. I'm taking the Bayou Bengals. A couple stats for you. Kelly is 17-0. Brian Kelly is 17-0 in his last 17 November games. Wow. Hasn't lost in November in several years. Notre Dame schedule is, what would help that. If you look in November, it's usually when they play USC, who has been down, as well as multiple naval academies. So, take that with a grain of salt. But even so, it's a fun stat. When you look at LSU, when they run the ball well, 4.7 yards per game or more, they're 6-0. Arkansas, great pass rush. Hasn't been fantastic against the run as of late. I don't know. I like that spot. You look at as home dogs, Arkansas has been terrible, one of the worst in the SEC at covering. And then LSU as a road favorite has been strong the last 5 years. So I'm taking LSU. It just feels like I'm going to be coming back. Arkansas is going to win by 3 touchdowns, but this feels like an LSU win.
Yeah, I've got Arkansas, but again, don't feel very strong about it at all. It's just, I think Arkansas is going to score points. I think it's going to be a back and forth game a little bit. And I think LSU is a good team, but I just don't think they are a great team. I still don't think they're a top 10 team, honestly. But they are playing much better. Their offense has started to kind of find its groove. So if that continues again this week, then I'll, might change my mind. But I think Arkansas, look, they're a good team. They have a lot of confidence, and with Jefferson in their quarterback, they can score. So it's just a matter of, can their defense do enough in the secondary to slow LSU down? But again, this line feels like a trap to take LSU. So I'll back the Pigs and hope
there we go.
All right.
Agreed. It kind of looks like a trap, but okay, we're wondering how it gets to 2.5. So, let's give Arkansas in a rivalry game a full 3 points. So now it's 5.5. If we take that off, and then if we would have flip it over to LSU, that's a 4.5 point game. So a 4.5 point like home field advantage potentially. So I mean, at home, does LSU -9, -10 seem way too high? Seem crazy? Seem right in line?
Still too high, I think, but
I mean, Arkansas they're 2 out of their last 3, but one's against BYU, one's against Auburn. I mean, those are 2 teams that we've been beaten up on all year. They lost to Liberty. They got, beat pretty bad by Alabama, A&M, Mississippi State. So I'm just not seeing it for Arkansas. They're 2-15 straight up as a home underdog in their last 17 games. I guess it's 9-8 against the spread, but if they lose, I think if they lose,
the margin stuff in,
Yeah, I mean, I've got LSU. I just think it's a team that's peaking. I wonder if there's some, chip on their shoulder that people thought they weren't going to be that good, or I don't know if there's a lot of pressure on them. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like they're playing with house money at this point. Go and beat a team you should be better than, and if Jaden can keep, the high level play up.
Hey man, Jaden's playing well.
Yeah.
Your boy.
I can only imagine why he didn't play so good in Tempe, and it might have had to do with the coach, but we never talked about him. But yeah, LSU 2.5.
Yeah, to me, it's either I take Arkansas money line. To me, either Arkansas wins all right, or LSU covers pretty easily. It's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah.
Arkansas traveling to Ole Miss, 12.5 points. I'm gonna let y'all talk.
I'll lead it off. I still have a lot of confidence in Alabama. I do love the fact that it does seem like Lane's not happy. I love the line "Goat Fuel" with Feinbaum kind of talking about the dynasty being over, and other people talking about that as well. But I feel like that is the kind of thing that fuels Nick Saban in the spot. But to me, again, it's Bama's had a lot of close games, no matter how you cut it. On the road, again, it's been a spot where they haven't been great recently. And Ole Miss and Lane's going to pull everything he's got out, everything. He's going to be running every trick play in his bag for this win. This is a big one probably for him. Alabama covers would not surprise me. The defense should be able to just kind of pile in on the run and just force them to beat them over the top. But to me, I just think Ole Miss finds a way to keep it close. I don't know that they win, but look, anything I think at this point is possible with the way kind of the season's been shaken out. And Ole Miss is still a pretty good team. I know you guys aren't believers in the Land Sharks, but I still think they're a solid team enough. They could do enough offensively. And if Bama continues to just trip over themselves all the way down the field, that again will help Ole Miss out too. So I've got Ole Miss in the points.
I can't believe it.
Good. Nelly, you want to drop the stat, or you want me to drop the stat?
The coming off a loss for Bama. Yeah,
Should we do it together?
I mean, I tell you what, man, I got to use this stat a few weeks ago. I didn't know I'd get to use it again so quickly, but Bama continues to be 5-0 against the spread after a loss. I mean, Bama is just they're covering machines after Saban gets mad and wants to kill everybody in there. But to kind of Spen's point, a couple things I want to talk on is the Bama run defense. It's been elite. So the pass defense has been up and down, but the rush defense has been very good. Ole Miss obviously wants to run the ball. Spen has talked about that all season, that they're an elite running team.
Yeah.
So it'd be an interesting matchup there. I think Bama can slow them down. Ole Miss has been terrible against the spread their last 6. They've only covered once. So I just think it all sets up well. When you look at passing, Ole Miss pass defense is horrendous. They've given up 70% plus passing the last 3 to 5 games. They let Texas A&M throw for almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. So I think this is a get right game. Not that Bryce was scuffling or anything, but I think he's just going to go nuclear on them, and Bama covers.
I mean, you got the 2 stats that matter: the 5-0 against the spread after the loss. Ole Miss not covering. I guess it all started with that Kentucky game, potentially that Tulsa game before. They just haven't been shown out to me what we hoped or what we put behind Lane Kiffin's name. I just think Bama comes and bring it. I'll bring the shaker out for the second time tonight.
How about it?
And we will roll.
Rammer Jammer. Yeah. Rammer Jammer, Yellow Hammer.
Hey, look, I don't think it's close. I think Bama handles business.
Ooh,
Hey,
on an island again.
Everybody.
The Bama man.
Moving
Bama
on, I
man
know the
gets
Bama fan is like, I think it's going to be a close game, and we're all just
It's a
like,
win-win.
no,
Win-win
screw
for
that.
me. Win-win.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
UCF 2.5 on the road at Tulane. I kind of want to leave early now, to go down there, because I'll be down there this weekend. Dude, this Tulane team is fun. It really is fun. UCF loves these kind of games. I'm still taking Tulane. I think their magical run continues. I'd like to see them sneak into a New Year's Six bowl just because I think it'd be so much fun.
I don't have the alpha on this. I got the beta, and I got to say, number one, super jealous you're going to New Orleans. I don't know if we should tell all the people where you're going to eat all the great things, or if we take that off onto another chat. But I mean, really simple for me. New Orleans is my favorite city in the country. So based on that and that alone, I'm going to go Tulane minus 2.5, and then we can just move right on to one of you guys spin or Nelly or something.
Okay, I'll go. I got Tulane too. I'll roll with Tulane. This is a great spot for Gus. He likes being an underdog, playing that role, and I think they have a good chance to pull the upset and walk out here with a win. I just think Tulane's just a little bit better team. I just lean on their defense. Their defense has been really good this year throughout, and I think again, even though that this UCF offense has looked really, really good at times, they haven't played a ton of good defenses either throughout the year. So I think that I'm just kind of going with that. It wouldn't surprise me if Gus walks out. Again, one I don't love this week, but I got to go with Tulane and kind of with you guys. I hope they can kind of keep this thing going because it is a great story.
Man, I'll hop on the other side on this one. Mainly because kind of the point we made last pick here is this line feels a little hinky to me. I feel like Tulane should be favored by more. Tulane has been a really good team this year. You look at UCF. A couple things on here that they've won 5 out of the last 6 straight up, but they've only covered. They split it right down the middle, 3-3. Tulane is the best team against the spread in the country. They're actually 8-1 against it. Couple things that lead me to jump on the other side is Gus Malzahn loves this, kind of like Spen said, like this is his like moment, this is his role. He likes to come into this. He really doesn't do well with expectations, so it's a better spot for him. UCF's offense has been fantastic. 500 plus yards, the top 15 in most statistical categories. It's been up and down, been some explosions and some callbacks, but defensively they're only giving up 18 a game. So UCF's defense has played pretty well per their standard. So I actually like the under in this game. Is a kind of little side thing just to keep an eye on. Don't love it, but kind of like it. But I'm taking a flyer on the Knights just because I feel like this line looks a little weird to me.
Fair. Washington traveling to Oregon, 13.5. I'm gonna be honest, I got Oregon.
Ooh, quack attack.
Quack attack. I'm still not sold on them, but I'm definitely not sold on Washington. So I've got Oregon 13.5.
Man, well,
Nelly, why don't you tell us about your boys? Yeah.
All right, so here, let me set the stage first and foremost here. That Oregon wins this game. So Oregon wins this game, but Washington is going to cover in this game. So let me point to a couple items for how we get to there. So, the really weird stat on this is that the winner of this game has covered every year for 22 years. So like that feels bizarre. But, obviously if there's upsets, the lines are tight, it's not crazy. But as a favorite, as it is shown, Oregon's covered, I think, 16 out of those 22. So Oregon's obviously been a better team through most of those time periods. But that's just kind of a little wonky stat. But Oregon's pass defense is bottom 15 in the country. Their pass rush has come along. They are an okay defense. That probably is what you would say about it. But their pass defense is horrific. Bottom 15. Michael Penix leads the nation in passing yards, leads the nation in a whole bunch of passing categories. He's going to light them up. He's going to keep it close enough. 13.5 is a lot of points. Oregon's going to win by 7-10 and have another CFP win onto their belt. But, I think Michael Penix has some success and can kind of keep it close.
I'm with you, bro. I agree for a lot of those same reasons. I think this game could probably go over too. I just think there'll be a decent amount of scoring. And a ton of passing too. I agree. I think Washington will have success passing. They're going to throw a lot. They're not all going to be downfield. They're going to be a lot of shorter passes, but they're going to kind of string some drives together against this Oregon team. And it's still remarkable that Oregon's pass defense has been that bad. And it's going to catch up to them at some point. Like, to me, this is one I wouldn't mind playing a little money line on, just to see what Washington can do. I know it's tough going into Oregon, all that stuff, but I just think the matchup here is pretty good. Crazy to me, neither one of these two teams give up many sacks either. Washington does get some pressure, but Oregon's only allowed 1 sack all year. 1 sack in 9 games.
Man.
That's crazy. And Washington's only allowed 7. So they're second, tied for second in the Pac-12.
Oh man,
Oregon only 1 sack. So I feel like there's going to be a decent amount of time for these guys to throw too. So could be an opportunity to kind of to move the football quite a bit. But I like Washington a lot here just for the matchup, for them to keep this close and have a chance to win it late.
Not so fast, my friends. Except for DiCaprio. So fast, my friend. I'm going to go with Oregon. They've covered 4 straight. And really, I think this is just a fade of Washington. Their last 3 games, Oregon State, Cal, Arizona. Obviously, beating a ranked team last week is good, but I don't think any of those teams are that good. Nothing has been that impressive. If you're going to give up 45 points to Arizona State, how many points do you think you're going to give up to Oregon? You look at the rest of the schedule. I mean, Michigan State's got an 11 by their name, but we all know how that kind of turned out. So I just don't have a lot of belief in Washington. It goes back to that Cal game where there was nothing to be impressed about. And Oregon, I think they're clicking. I think they know how close they can be to the playoff, and I think they're going to cover. And, go Ducks. Quack, quack.
This uniform combo is elite. But I just got to know what's up with the little boxing ring.
Yeah, what's going on in this room
facility? Here? Like I was looking at it because I was looking to see what their uniforms were for the weekend, And so I was just like, "Yo, what is this?" So they're sure interesting thing. They've got a little mini boxing ring here, but the Ducks roll.
Hey, if you roll with Nike, you can get everything. Also, that was kind of weird. Right. I couldn't tell he was sitting on a ring, and I was like, why did he poop out a ball? That's weird.
TCU on the road at Texas, guys. Look, okay, I just, I know we like the TCU story, but I'd love to see Texas win this game. I think they win the game. I think they cover.
Wow.
I hope that we have – I hope that we have a second half performance this week because this is, one of our bigger games left on the schedule. I hope we have a solid second half performance. This could be one of those momentum building wins that you always talk about for upcoming seasons. And I do know we have the number 1 safety in the nation visiting this weekend that flipped from, decommitted from Texas A&M. So I hope Texas, plays really well. If they do, New Year's Six Bowl, here we come.
Let's stay close to home with the Horns. I do expect them to win this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they blew them out. For whoever's watching, the line is 7. We kind of had to move the line around just so we can, get wins and losses. We don't do ties. This is not soccer or football, if you will. But as has been the case with me in Big 12, I feel like I've just been taking points all season long. TCU's a second half team. Texas, we know their troubles in the second half. So I'm going to take the points. Think Texas can win, but think TCU can cover. One thing that's interesting, Gary Patterson, longtime coach of the Horned Frogs, took him to the Rose Bowl. He is on the sideline in Austin. And, I mean, he was their head coach last year. So if you don't think he knows, some players and some things going on over there, I'm sure he does. So even though that is not jive with my pick, I'll go with TCU. But something to consider for sure.
I think that I have to imagine that Quentin Johnson, his status is the reason why this line is where it is. It's like that's the only thing I could think of. But with the hook, thank you for bumping that thing to 7.5 for our picks, Cerveza. That was my deciding factor. I think Texas has obviously got a great chance. And Texas looked really good at times. They haven't put a whole game together yet, it feels like, but they looked really good in stretches. But TCU's still a really good team. If Quentin Johnson plays, if he doesn't play, it could change my opinion. I think they makes it a little bit more limited on offense for them. but they're still really good, and they're going to be kind of slinging it all over. And again, when I talk about it, this is one of those, I look at the number and go 65. I'd probably get on board for another over here in the Big 12 once again. Can go back and forth a little bit. So I can't see it being a blowout. To your point, Cerveza, maybe it might, but I mean, especially since you have them 3 and you're super sexy, super serious, top 25. But I like the Horned Frogs. Let's keep it close, my friends.
Nice. There we go. Yeah, this is another like, it's bitten me every year or every week this year that Texas has been involved in a game that I don't understand the line, and so I'm sure I'm going to lose this week too. I'm taking TCU, but it's such a weird line. So if this line, obviously 7, if it gets to 7.5, it would be the biggest a top 5 team has ever been an underdog to an unranked team. And biggest underdog a top 5 team has ever been to another ranked team. So it's just a crazy to be 7.5, 7, whatever, as a number 4 team in the country. That's crazy. So I don't know. It just feels weird to me, but I think Texas will end up, like I said, winning this game. I think Austin's putting it together. I think that they're coming together. They're going to close strong. I think they'll play in the Big 12 title. I think that's open if they win outright. So I think that they're cruising towards that. But TCU, they're so balanced. Love the offense. This is a very interesting spot for them. They've been second best in the country covering, 7-1-1 against the spread. 7-3 against the spread last 10 versus Texas. So I can't wait to watch this game. I don't really feel comfortable betting this game, probably personally with the line, but I'll take TCU here.
What's crazy, we could see these two teams play each other again in a couple of weeks in the conference championship. So there's that. Yeah. All right, last game.
Everybody owns Texas.
Yeah, literally. North Carolina on the road at Wake Forest. I'm holding off on this one till the end.
I'll lead us off. I picked UNC, but I know they're due for a slip up here, but they continue to find ways. They're not pretty wins typically. Virginia games kind of same thing. They just they figure out a way to win it. Most of it Drake May just kind of gets it done. But again, last team to have the ball, maybe we kind of alluded to that a little bit. Could be the team that wins here, but I'll take the 3.5 and go with UNC. I think Wake is due for a much cleaner game. They've just been so sloppy possessing the ball the last 2 weeks, but maybe that's just kind of who they are too, right? Hartman's had some ugly games in terms of turnovers during his career, so it's not like it's completely out of the question for it to continue. So I just like a lot of points, and I'll take UNC.
So basically, what you think, brother?
I mean, these are teams I haven't got. I mean, nobody should have to watch the ACC, guys. Give me the points in a shootout. UNC. I'll save us a bunch of time. Go Mac Brown, baby.
It's gonna be a fun game, man. It's gonna be. It's not a game. I guess technically it has some level of playoff implications depending on UNC and what they're able to do. But should be a lot of fun. And slinging it around the yard. Like I said, points bonanzas. Tune in and have fun. I'm taking UNC in the points. A couple things to look at here. Wake is 0-2 against the spread their last 2. North Carolina's 2-0 against the spread their last 2. As an underdog. Wake, listen to this heartbreak. Against UNC, Wake is 10-3 against the spread their last 13 games. All right, sorry, not UNC. Against top 25 teams, Wake is 10-3 their last 13 games, 0-13 straight up. How insane is that stat? That they do a great job covering, but that's what gives me a little pause. Is they rip their fans' hearts out. They play them close but drop it. But Drake May, Josh Downs, that offense is electric. Wake Forest has been better defensively, but I think they're susceptible to what they're going to do. It's going to be a fun game to watch. And since I'm getting the hook here with the half, I think it'll come down to a 3-point game. I'll take it.
Did everybody else go?
Oh yeah, it's your turn.
Okay. This was my coin flip game of the week, and I just had this feeling y'all were all on Carolina, so I actually went Wake Forest. With no reason other than why not?
I like it.
I didn't have a great reason, And then hearing y'all talk about North Carolina and just how great Drake May's been all, here recently, now it kind of makes me want to change my pick. But we're just going to roll with Wake and see what happens, At least we're not betting for money. So Spend has made me really want to pay attention to this game Saturday. So
it'll be fun. It'll be a fun game.
Yeah, I'll be tuning back and forth. All right. Well, let's real quick. I didn't show this earlier, but Spend, you have overtaken me. I am now the worst.
Yeah, well.
Almost 500. We're almost there, baby.
Nelly's creeping on me.
He is. No, I say that, though. The battle for last place continues to be valiant.
We got an interesting board this week.
Yeah, no, very interesting.
Spin's got a chance to make up some ground for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or just continue to dig my hole even deeper.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's get into the locks. This is our lock record for the season. Spin's absolutely killing it. I'm absolutely dreadful.
Spin man.
Nelly, you've been pretty hot too recently.
Yeah, I'm putting it together, baby.
Hey, There
we go. Here, guys.
Look, literally, take LSU points. Take LSU money line.
He loves money.
Take LSU however you want this week. I don't care what it is.
Here we go.
Take them however, which means they're 100% about to lose this weekend because I put them as a lock. But just money line, points, sprinkling it everywhere. LSU rolls.
Man, there we go.
And let's remember that LSU...
Go Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers. And let's remember, I was the one that said LSU would finish second to last in the conference in the West this year. So there's that.
Man. So this is we talked about fading bad defenses, which is a spend. That's something that I'm going to take that to my grave. I'd just love to follow on that. But Oklahoma, really interesting spot. Obviously coming off a really brutal loss to Baylor, had started to show signs of life, but they are going to a team that is not showing any signs of life, that at West Virginia Mountaineers. This, I think, is the nail in the coffin for Neil Brown. I know he's on the hook for a lot of money, but they're ready to get him out of there. I think if he comes out of this lackadaisical performance and gets nuked, it's going to be trouble. Couple things to look at. So West Virginia's lost 3 in a row. Dylan Gabriel has to have his mouth watering looking at this pass defense. Obviously, he threw 3 picks last week, but he started to put together. Eric Gray's averaging 6.5 yards per game. The rush defense has not been there for West Virginia. I just think that Oklahoma's going to be able to probably score 40, and I don't think West Virginia's going to get there. So, Boomer Sooner.
I like that. I'll add. I was looking at that game a little bit. I'm curious to see what Brown does at quarterback, because there was like a little talk this week that maybe he might take JT Daniels out and give the backup chance, because he was just like, I don't know what's wrong with JT Daniels. Like, he basically was just like, we don't know. Like, he's had a good week of practice this week, so I expect him to rebound, but that didn't seem like he was too confident in him. And the other thing I thought was interesting too, he said, like, we need to play faster. We need to pick up the pace a little bit more on offense. So maybe it's a little bit higher scoring than maybe we expect. So it could be another over spot potentially, but I like that pick.
Yeah. I was looking for that game. I was looking through all the lines to see where there was a 7.5 point favorite going on the road, because I was telling myself the next time I see that, I'm betting the other way. So I don't know. Now I'm scared. I'm going to be considering West Virginia. And before we get to the locks, if y'all aren't in the Discord, and if you're just watching the show and you don't have a night, go get a night. Get in that Discord. Central Michigan came back win. Northern Illinois come back win. That's 5 in a row. I'm giving out in the Discord non-Saturdays. So get your butts in the Discord. Let's talk some college football. But you all knew it was going to happen. Going to the Big 12, we're going over. We're finding a number in the low 50s. Kansas State, Baylor, 53.5. Baylor's hit 6 straight overs in their games. These are just 2 teams that score. I mean, there's nothing else to say other than that. These teams can both score in the 30s. I just think there's going to be points. It's the Big 12. Why isn't this 57.5, 58.5, 60.5? I mean, Kansas State's going to start playing defense now. Baylor's going to start playing defense now. If it was at K-State, I'd maybe be a little worried. But on the road, I think Baylor controls the game. Baylor's been playing very well as of late. And I think this thing gets into the 60s. Unless somebody scores 0, like K-State shutting out Okie State, this is a nut over.
I like it. You got to keep going back to the well, man. I mean, when you find a good spot,
right.
you found some good Big 12 overs. So I like it. I'll roll with you there too. All right, going back to the well. One of my convictions last week was Utah State against New Mexico, which was just a very lucky victory. Utah State found a way to just shut out New Mexico in the second half and get there. But that's one of the reasons why I liked it, because New Mexico's offense is so bad. Now Air Force is at home against New Mexico. Air Force, it's just another good matchup, right? Air Force will run the football, and they're not going to be able to slow down that option attack. And I kind of look at last year's game was 38-10. Like I kind of see something similar here in this one. I just think New Mexico, like they cannot pass the ball. They're going to try to run the ball, and that's what Air Force does well, right? They stop the run. So I don't see them scoring a whole lot in this game. Like look at New Mexico's offense. They've just been all year long have been awful, even against Utah State, which is a bad defense, right? Especially compared to Air Force. Last week they had 42 yards passing against Utah State and 216 yards rushing. So they were able to run the football, but they're not going to run the football this week. So again, I just think Air Force is going to be able to score some points against not an awful defense, but not a good defense. And then this is more on New Mexico, just will have a lot of trouble scoring. So again, 35-7, 35-10. It's kind of what I'm on mine here. So almost took Georgia, almost just made it simple. Took Georgia minus 16.5 this week, but instead we're rolling with Air Force at home against an awful offense in New Mexico.
I like it. I mean, we were just talking earlier about how Air Force should have covered, last week's game. I mean, that's just a team that I like it. I like it.
Nice. Let's go 4-0, boys.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's go 4-0. I mean, LSU should be money, so we should be good there. All right, anybody got any closing thoughts as we end yet another week? I can't believe it's week 11. God, this year is flying.
I just want to congratulate the Houston Astros on a world championship, and now that that's all over, I can get back to my first love, which is watching college football from noon till night on Saturday.
Yeah,
nothing getting in my way.
And you know what? You make a good point there, because I haven't got to watch a lot of college football because it's the World Series and the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it'll actually be nice to just –
There we go.
Wait, I can't even sit back and – whatever. I'm not even going to be –
I want to know where you're going to eat in New Orleans. We're going to worry about
mean, literally, like, if I go anywhere, there's this little brunch spot outside of Metairie that I'll go to, but I'm going down there for, like, a baby shower type thing, so it's not going to be, like, a party or anything like that.
What brunch spot is that?
I can't think of the name of it. I'll have to send you the name of it, but it's just – yeah, that's about
Cerveza's favorite city in the world, man.
Yeah.
No, in the States. I don't know about the world yet, but the States easy.
There we go.
I'll add one other.
My brunch spot.
Oh, it's called the Ruby Slipper.
Oh, you ever eaten there, Cerveza?
I've been to Atchafalaya is my brunch spot. So good.
Gotcha. I'll add one more, a little bit more of a serious tone, but I know it's been a pretty crazy week in crypto. A lot of people have probably been affected in some way. So, it's rough. And anybody that's dealing with that, with FTX and stuff, keep your head up, just step away. Go watch football this weekend. Just get away from it for a little bit, because this will pass at some point. It might be very dire at this point for a lot of people, but there will be another day. So don't get too hung up on it. I know it can be very difficult, but live to fight another day. That's what you got to do in this world, especially with crypto. So just keep your head up.
Amen.
Ben, with a good word. Talk about it, brother.
And on that note, enjoy your weekend of college football, guys.
Good night.
We're out.